Hi guys, welcome to Robin Hood Diaries once again. This is, as promised, part two of two parts of my marriage. My up to point of the marriage was the last episode, and then this is from getting our first apartment right after our honeymoon forward. So let's start there so we can keep this brief. My then wife and I, Rita, after the marriage, we got an apartment, and it was a lovely apartment on 6th Street in Crescent Heights, which is now like beyond chic, but this was '87, so it wasn't, it was great. A great apartment. I could not get arrested as an actor. I did, God knows how long. I did one. I starred in one stage play that ran for a month or some 2 months, whatever. So, and of course, I'm waiting tables like friggin' nutso like in 3 restaurants. So, we had this great apartment, and we were kind of known for our parties or holiday parties, and they fell upon very good times. So my memories post-wedding in that apartment are fantastico. So we have established we are now in our great apartment on Orange Drive in Los Angeles, my new wife and I, in our brand new apartment where we are having great parties. And a slice of a day in the life would be, perhaps, since we had completely conflicting schedules. I was working waiting tables 3 times over, and she had a day job. So, it would be nothing for me. Post-wedding, to go to Studio 54, can you imagine? Studio 1, and spend all night there, and come home, and she would be getting ready, and I would be home from Studio 1, and we would share how I had spent that weekend with the security guard at Studio 1. We had like a fling. I was there all the time, and it was super duper. His name was Tony, and guess what? Years later, I find out my husband used to be security at Studio 1, and Tony used to work for him. So the guy that I was giving all of the interesting and explicit details to, my love of my life, Rita, at the time, would be me sitting on the toilet rapping with her while she was putting her makeup on to go to work for a couple hours, and tell her about all of Tony and Studio 1 that night. And that I didn't know my husband was his boss at the time, and I find out that years later. So good times, and that's, aside from my favorite breakfast that my then wife used to make me, which is just between me and her. Look, guys, it involves spam. Okay, go from there. So here I am in this apartment, yada yada yada, parties. I was actually working, like I said, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. on average. I was working 3 different restaurants, 2 at a time, depending on what time frame. So we had conflicting schedules, of course. Her being 9 to 5, she was running sales for the Nico Hotel on La Cienega, and the Sunset Marquis, and all kinds of other places. This was not good for one thing, guys, aside from the fact that we were, having a pretty groovy time. Our conflicting schedules left Sean with a lot of off-hour time. So since we basically had just enough time for her to get ready for work and me to come home from God knows what after 2 a.m. So 6 to 2, depending on the night, and by 4 a.m., I'm already finished with everything. Uh, and like I said, we would wrap. But this was not necessarily good for my promiscuity. You can read all kinds of stuff in my book about my behavior, where things were, and all of that germination. Like I said, these conflicting schedules, this triple jobbing. Hers was very hard. Mine, I don't know if you ever waited tables, but that was not the easiest thing in the world, and that paid my rent. Like I said, I couldn't get arrested as an actor for some reason. I could not get arrested as an actor. My bread and butter was commercials. That was my thing that I held on to till the very last minute, is working in commercials. Mr. Nice Guy. And if I didn't get residuals from those commercials at that time, before I just completely let go in 88, 89, whatever, if I didn't wait tables, the way I did, again, that was my only contribution to the household. So, like I said, it wasn't the best thing in the world. It wasn't the best thing in the world for my numbers. Let's not talk numbers. Not with me. And so there I am, and we're having this, this nice time in this nice apartment, the way I just told you. And then we had to move. We didn't have to move. There was an incredible deal on an apartment right next to the Beverly Center, through of course, friend of the matriarch, the empress. I mean, my mother. So we took that apartment. That was the beginning of, I don't want to say the beginning of the end, but it was the beginning of a new era. Because once we took this great deal, my then wife and I, and moved there right next to the Beverly Center, life took a turn. And at that apartment, next to the Beverly Center, was when I was working like a dog, waiting tables. And it wasn't good that I was ending my shift so late at night. Unaccounted for time, where Sean is between here and there, has never been a good thing. So my numbers went up. And so I was out. I wasn't out cruising constantly. And after my shift one night at one of the restaurants I was working at, I went to just park in a certain area, which was not I guess notorious back in the day, or at that day. And I just wanted to take a breath. And I'm sitting again, like I said earlier, even in another episode, post-shift, in my car, and up pulls a little Vespa next to my open window. And we're eye to eye, and it was love at first sight. It was, I've had like three great loves of my life, 4 great loves of my life. That was the first time I ever fell in love with someone at first glance. And so I know it's true. I mean, people say, is it possible? Well, yeah. It's possible. The kid had HIV and told me weeping on our first date, and I told him I don't care. And we dated for, I don't know, a couple of years, or just shy of. So until he passed away in my arms, but there you go. So life shifted, good times, bad times, kind of in a capsule. Marriage, all that led up to that, and then everything literally from our honeymoon right into this first apartment, and then up to Tim. Now Timothy is a whole different story. It's in my book, and it is heart-wrenching, I guess, plus 100,000 other things. So I'll leave you with that. Who knows what we'll get around to. I've got a very interesting topic tomorrow that's kind of way to the left, because that would be your left, stage left. So we'll see how that goes. I love you. I adore you, as always, for putting up with me and my stories all the time. I'm choking you with them. Okay. See you tomorrow. Bye.